Rob?
Well, I'd like to hear an answer to Indra's question, but also specifically, Victoria just said that there are certain, and Clint also said there were certain counselors who had concerns. Well, who are those counselors? And maybe they are the ones who could tell us to answer Indra's question. And what are the concerns that those counselors have? Like, why is everyone remaining nameless? If we have no names, I'm not going to, because this was done behind closed doors, it was done in an email outside of public view, how do I even know that any counselors had concerns about finalizing this year's evaluation if no one's going to raise their hand and say it was me? I'll go so far as to say I don't believe that anybody objected to it, unless someone says otherwise.
Well, so objections were brought to me through the council president. And would you like to address the objections?
No, I don't think so at this time.
Okay, so I guess you would have to reach out to the council president and see what the objections are. Because this was done in executive session, I don't feel comfortable in restating that. You were in executive session, so it was basically pertaining to my comments in executive session. So you were there.
So we have nobody here that's willing to say that they wanted to have this change for this year. Not a single person who's here says that they want to have a change for this year. Because if we don't have it, then we shouldn't change it for this year. We should just finish it and move on.
That is the purview of the council to do what they need to do. If this is facilitated by the council president, go ahead.
Well, but I think that, well, now it's clear that, I mean, it fell on me to the parameters of the evaluation, and nothing was done wrong. I've already been assured that there's no behind the scene, behind the doors issue with that. So that isn't an issue. So, I mean, we can vote now. I don't know if we want to vote now because we're two counselors down, but that would be also up to the council. But I think it would be better to have the input of the full council if you guys want to vote on it. That's just my personal opinion, but I'm not directing. If it is in fact, though, if it does in fact fall on the council president, and that actually I believe is in our charter, or it's, then it would be something that I would just want to do. So, I'm going to find, it's a fine line here. I don't want to push something on to the council, but I also do want to do my responsibility of being the procedural, doing the procedure for the evaluation. So anyway, I hope that helps.
No.
Okay, so
I need to correct something, Clint.
Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead, Rob. I was trying to add to that. It is
not the city, it is not the council president's job to decide the parameters of the evaluation. They are to facilitate the evaluation. They facilitated it last Friday. They do not decide the parameters. They have no more input than any other counselor. So that's completely wrong, okay? So it's not up to the council president to decide the parameters, or to even, they can recommend like any other of the 8 counselors. And for that matter, they could even recommend, I suppose, like the mayor could. But it's her job to facilitate. She did it. I didn't see any problem with the job that was done facilitating it. And at this point, I mean, we can stretch this thing out forever, I suppose. Still don't know why. Indra asked why. I'm asking why. I'm asking who. No answer to any of it. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. We need to move forward, put this thing to bed, call it good, and next year we can discuss. It will be a long discussion coming up with parameters and coming up with a form and possibly hiring a facilitator, that will not take a week or 2 or 3. That will take much longer than that with any council, especially this council, but with any council, that would take a while. In the same way that the compensation task force took a while. Things will take a while. I've been through part of this already. It's not going to happen. It won't happen done well in a couple of weeks. And again, we completed it. And anyone who wanted to change it was free to do it. I say move forward.
And I'm going to let Aaron weigh in.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate the conversation that's occurring here, and I think everyone was acting for the best of everyone, and I think the council president was trying to facilitate and accomplish a healthy process that would provide for a positive experience for all parties involved and a polished work product. I know the discussion, obviously, just based on what we're having today, would, I think, show and demonstrate that we do need to change the process and that a third party is likely a really good first start. And that could be determined and discussed in great detail moving forward in the future. I think just right now at this point, I don't think there's any people to blame or fingers to point at. I think everyone was just in their best interest trying to do what was best for the council and the organization, et cetera. So at this time, you had the council president that did suggest that moving into and finishing the review, whether it take an additional 2 weeks or it take an additional 2 months to accomplish through a facilitated process based on experience from this year's evaluation. And council definitely could go that route with some additional direction, or you can just continue and close out what we've done this year, look forward to some kind of change in the system next year, which I think no matter what happens with today's direction should be on the schedule in January, February to come up with a plan so we can move forward in the future. But so that's what I had to say.
Go ahead.
And I would just say that if council wanted to move forward, well, I think we need to consider to just leave things as they are, or I think we would still need to afford the opportunity for all counselors to, because the evaluations are kind of like in a stasis, I guess would be a good way to put it. And, well, there's one counselor I know who just won't be back for 12 days. She's out of the country. So if we wanted to just continue as is, then we would need to wait some time regardless. But so if people wanted to go back to the original, it would still have to wait like 2 weeks. But then, because as we stood now, it was if there weren't, or we decide to go with what was discussed, which was if there were not 3, and so now it's been deliberated in public, so Rob would feel comfortable to say, you know, I don't want to do that. So if there were 3 counselors by tomorrow, because that was what we were talking about doing, then if there were 3 counselors that objected, then I don't know what we were going to do after that, just default back to the original or not. But so those are 2 options to kind of crystallize them a bit. So if council wanted to do the evaluation, that they would still be in stasis for like 2 weeks because there's one counselor who's out of the country, and so there's one option. So and then the other would be to go ahead and do this facilitator, but you still have until tomorrow to object to that. So does that make it clear for everyone, or is that clear as mud and I need to explain it a little better?
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, first off, I have no idea where this arbitrary deadline of tomorrow at what time ever came from. I guess that was part of the behind the scenes whatever. that I didn't want to participate in. I'm just going to make a motion that we finalize the evaluation. The evaluation's finalized as of tomorrow. People can put in whatever their last best offers are, and we take a vote on that now.
Okay, so you have a motion on the table to finalize the employee evaluation as proceeded forward with, and there is a second on the table. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Victoria.
Yes, once again, I object to behind the scenes. We've established that might be your opinion, but that's not the fact. So, and there is a counselor who is not here, won't be here for 2 weeks, and was under the impression we were doing the different evaluation process. So I would object, I would not be for this because that wouldn't be fair to this counselor who is gone. So, there's that.
Joel?
Well, I kind of stay on the sidelines here, but as I listen, I don't see a purpose as to why we would change. It hasn't been stated. And maybe it's, people don't feel comfortable stating it out of executive session. I'm not sure. The other thing is, it's great that a counselor's out of the country, but we need to deal with a quorum and our rules. And if I'm out of the country, I trust the rest of you to vote, and I'll support what you vote for, because that's just the way we work. And with all due respect,
Well, she wouldn't be afforded the ability to evaluate. That would be the end result of that. That's what I was trying to communicate.
she wouldn't be afforded the opportunity to evaluate
Because she hasn't turned in an evaluation.
because she hasn't turned in the original evaluation or her comments.
I think maybe it's if we put a stay on our current process and we move to a facilitated process, we would need at least 2 weeks until she's back to start that process.
I could understand that. I could
Yeah.
understand that. Okay. But it's not that I agree with it, but I understand it. Okay.
But it was also brought forward that not all counselors have turned in their evaluations or re-scrutinized or redid their evaluations, so it would not afford her the opportunity to add or subtract or amend anything after the executive session.
Yeah, I understand that as well. And that's part of a quorum and how things work.
Rob?
So I disagree with the concept that a counselor was not afforded the opportunity to change, because if that counselor actually read the emails that went around last week behind closed doors, they would have known that it was quite possible that by the end of business tomorrow, this thing was going to be finalized. That's the way the emails were written. I can read them if you want me to, but that's the way they were written. They were written that said, if we don't have 3 counselors who object to this, then if we have 3 counselors who object to this, we're just going to move forward. So that was clear last week to everybody, that that's the, in my opinion, well, I won't talk about my opinion, but that was what was on the table. All the counselors were in the executive session where we all said we were going to give each other a couple of days, and the only reason I think we did that is because Indra was out of town. We were going to give each other a couple of days until Indra had a chance to reconsider, because everyone that night could have reconsidered. Like every other year that we've done evaluation, you can change whatever you want to write that night, based on what you heard in discussion, based on what you hear from feedback from the manager. You can change it that night, and it's done that night. That's the way it's been every other year. This year, because Indra was out of town, because we had a scheduling snafu, because we had a long meeting and so forth, and we weren't able to do it the original time, we did it on a day when Indra wasn't there. We decided we're going to give her 2 days to potentially change things. That's the way we left it in the executive session. That's the way all 7 counselors other than Indra heard it that night. So that counselor had full knowledge that within 2 days that was going to be finalized. And then the emails that went out last week somehow said that by December 2nd, we're going to be done. So everybody's known that we are either finished or close to finished within a couple of days. Everybody knew that. So everyone had a chance to change anything. And most importantly, they could have changed whatever they wanted to that night. I believe there was 5 of us or 4 of us that night that said, we're standing pat, we're fine. You know, what we wrote, that's fine. But we did give everyone the courtesy because Indra wasn't there. And that's actually the fact of what happened. So we want to spin this now and say, oh my gosh, we've got to wait 2 more weeks to give everyone the fairest possible chance. Everyone had a fair chance. And we all theoretically did our best job and submitted it. And then due to an unusual circumstance, we gave ourselves 2 extra days. Those 2 extra days are done.
So we did afford a counselor the time because that counselor was out of town. Now a counselor is out of town. So I just think it would be a courtesy to do the same for that counselor. And there's no spin. I just feel like it's a courtesy to do for her. Although I understand what Joel was saying about quorum and all of that. But the pivot was changed. So that is, that was the understanding of that counselor. So I'm just advocating for that counselor to have the extra time. If we are going to vote to do it the original way, then we should afford her the time when she gets back. So there's that. And
Eric?
I will say that, all of us got to see what everybody was changing. We did not get to see that from Indra. So whatever we do, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it the same way we started, or we go to the consultant. But in either case, as we get those opinions in, that causes a lot of other people's opinions to possibly change as well. So that's one thing that we did not have the advantage of having is Indra's input because she was gone. So,
Indra?
I made it clear to someone, I was the only one not there. I'm not changing anything. So whatever you read is what I'm going with because I'm comfortable doing that. I said that earlier. And I don't see, I just think we need to go forward.
So I made a motion. Is there a second?
There is a second. We were going through a discussion. Is there any further discussion? So there's a motion on the table with a second to proceed forward with the evaluation as is. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go into a vote. Rick?
This is a hard one because I think something of this magnitude should really have the full council on board. We're missing 2 individuals. The process we have before us has been done. I don't have a problem with having a consultant. I have hesitations on trying to come up with a new method at this point if it just sticks with what we have. So I guess on being a hard one in the unknown, I guess I could go either way, but I'm not sure dragging this out is going to be is a beneficial way, although I'm fully supportive of the city manager as indicated by my scores. And I guess I would vote in favor.
Rob?
And once again, yes means we're going forward with what we have, right? We're finalizing it as of today. That's what a yes vote means?
Correct. For clarification, the motion on the table is to proceed forward with the existing system and not change anything or go back.
Yes.
Eric?
So Rick, you voted yes to go with the current. I'm gonna, because I really, from the beginning, I don't like this process altogether. I think it's a horrible process and it needs to improve. I have no problems with leaving my score the way that I did it. And I explained the changes I had. That being said, I am a no for this. I want to change the process right now from the beginning.
Indra?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Victoria?
I'm no, because we're down 2 counselors and they should have had a say in this.
So I have 4 yeses and 2 nos. The motion on the table was to proceed forward with the existing conditions or the existing procedure of the evaluation and not stop and change it. So there's 4 yeses and 2 nos, so that means that motion passes. You would need clarification in the motion as the deadlines have changed and you do have some miscommunication between counselors that are not here. So I would put it back to the council to set a new deadline for adjusted scoring and comment sheets to come in for tabulation, out of respect for the people that are not here.
I moved.
Any discussion?
Well, I just want to make a motion to do that, to wait for the other 2 counselors to be able to turn in scores, because otherwise they have not evaluated.
Again, that is my opinion. I'm putting it out to council as I'm not involved in this process, as you guys need to, I just think that's courtesy for people that aren't here. But I'm opening it up for discussion for you guys. Rob?
Clint, we just made a motion that said we're done with it. We're done with that. That was the motion we just voted on. You can rephrase that any way you want, but that was the motion we just voted on, was to finish this process as of now. We voted yes.
Okay.
We're done.
So at this point, I would go ahead and veto that motion, as I am in full here, because you are not taking into consideration that you have 2 counselors out. One of the 2 counselors specifically said that they were going to change and amend their comments. You have other counselors that wanted to amend and change their comments on this dais that did not turn that in. So if you want the motion to go forward, I would say, great, motion go forward, do a friendly amendment to set a deadline for that. That's it. That's all I'm asking for.
First off, I'm not even sure if you can veto a motion, but we can check the charter on that. But I don't even think you can veto a motion. But, and you might want to check that, okay? I made the motion.
I will if I'm overstepping my bounds. I'm just trying to get the point across here, Rob.
Your point is clear.
Okay.
Your point is clear. You weren't a part of this process. You don't
Correct.
facilitate in the evaluation. The mayor has no part in this. Now, maybe in this situation, well, actually, the mayor has no part in this process. You're now taking a part in it. That's okay if that's what you feel you can step forward with. But the fact is, we made a motion to say we're done because everyone had the opportunity to change whatever they wanted to change, both that night and in the subsequent days. Everyone had the opportunity to do it.
Correct.
And when you wrote the email last week, you even said, if I have 3 people that object to this, then by December 2nd, we're going to be done with it. That's what your email said. I'll paraphrase, but that's what it said. It never said anything about waiting 2 more weeks. It never said anything about having all 8 counselors weigh in. So I'm just going by either the motion we just made, or even your email of last week that said we were done as of Tuesday, not we're done in 2 weeks if and when we have a full council come back. That wasn't in your email at all, 0, right? So we made a motion, we voted, and now you want to change it. You want to change it from what your email said last week. You want to change it from what this motion was today. And still we have nobody that said, gee, there's something that was wrong with this and I want to change it. Nobody has said, I want to change my scores. Not publicly, that's for sure. No one's copping to that. Why is this a problem? I mean, nobody's telling me why this is a problem.
Well, you should know that what the problem is because you were in executive session, and I stated up front, because it was an executive session, I'm not at liberty to discuss it. Okay, so if you are not willing to, so the motion stands as is, because obviously I overstepped my bounds, right? Absolutely correct. I was just, I apologize to all of you for that. I was just trying to actually make a point and get a point across, but obviously my email to you guys was sent to council at the behest of the council president, and it did state that if three counselors came forward in objection to going forward with a third-party consultant by December 2nd, then if three councils didn't come forward by December 2nd, then we would proceed forward with a third-party consultant. It had nothing to say that we would proceed forward with the current situation, because the email was posed to counselors as stopping the process and facilitating a third-party consultant, as was discussed during the executive session. For future, the idea was to do it in present to facilitate that. So, but if you guys are good with standing on the motion at hand, that's fine. I was actually trying to object to give counselors that weren't here the opportunity to submit their changes, as well as counselors that are here to submit their changes, because obviously we can even ask people if they wanted to change their stuff. Did you submit it? And I don't think people did. They did. So, procedural-wise, I cannot do a single thing. I have brought up the concerns that I have that I know that I will get from counselors as we leave here. So if those concerns are not entertained by you guys as a body, then that is your purview. Eric?
I am completely unaware of how we're going to move forward here right now. What's the deadline to turn in our changes, if we had changes? What are we doing here? I have no idea what's going on. I know a motion was made, but it's completely unclear.
Counselor, that's a great question, because we've talked about a lot of stuff now. So let me try to clarify based on what I know from the past direction coming out of executive session, and that was that we went through and people were able to modify some of their either responses or their scores or whatever, and then there was also an opportunity for, the date was last Wednesday, to turn in all final changes. So the changes that occurred in the executive session, along with anything submitted between then and the Wednesday, would be what we're working off of right now as the final document. So
we were given the opportunity to make the changes, and the deadline was the 2nd. So if we found out that we're going to go a different route, that means that the folks didn't turn in the required changes. So now, when are those required changes?
The deadline was the 26th of November.
Okay.
So that date is passed for anything to change.
Correct. So the changes that we discussed in executive session that other people had as well are not going to go?
No, those are all represented in the document.
But there were some changes that still needed to be done that we had for the 2nd, I believe it was, of November.
The 26th, that Wednesday was the date that was discussed coming out of executive session, when all changes need to be submitted.
I'm sorry, the 2nd of December. I saw somewhere in the email, 2nd of December is when those changes are going to be due.
I believe the 2nd of December was a response that was said, hey, we're looking at going into the direction of hiring a third-party consultant. If we don't hear from 3 counselors that object, then we'll move forward with that process. That's the part that was the December 2nd deadline. That didn't pertain to comments from the original evaluation.
But knowing that there was that things changed, I made a phone call and asked, hey, are we going to turn in these changes? Because I knew the deadline was there, and I think it was a Wednesday. We needed to turn it in on a Wednesday. I said, okay, well, if we're going a different process, then I'll hold on to my changes. I'll hold on to the updates. And so those updates were never put in, even though some were put in at the executive session. For some others, I'm sure they had changes as well. So my question is, again, when do those changes get submitted, and is it too late? And if that is the case, then I think that's completely ridiculous, because that's what we discussed in executive session.
Well, I think ultimately that's for council to determine. I think if there was confusion on the submittal and the date and individuals didn't have an opportunity to submit, then that's something to discuss, of maybe a modification of the motion that was just passed to provide for a date, say sometime this week, for you to submit any changes or whatever. But that's ultimately a council decision, and that would require a modification of the motion that we have currently stated.
I agree, and that's why I brought up the point that this motion should have been a modification to that, or of some kind, if that's the motion that came forward. Because again, we have counselors that are out of country, and I know of other people that have changes that didn't get them submitted. So, and that's just the way it is. I mean, we can argue back and forth here amongst ourselves, but I think that the timetable probably needs to shift a little bit to afford those other counselors the opportunity.
Rob?
Okay, so I'm not following what Eric said at all, because at the Monday, when we did the evaluation, at that time, we decided we were going to give everybody 2 more days to let Indra. That's actually how we left it in the executive session. There was no other option about December 2nd discussed at all. That was on nobody's radar when we were in that executive session. That's a fact. And right now, that's a fact. There was no other discussion at that time. Aaron just repeated it. That was my understanding as well. Right now, if it makes Eric feel better, that he thought that December 2nd was going to be the final, because the bottom line is, the email that went out last week never said that we were going to move forward and discount this year's evaluation. It never said that. It was in flux. So everyone at that time, reading the emails of last week, everyone may have thought that December 2nd, once Clint got involved, people might have gotten confused and thought December 2nd was actually going to be potentially a potential last day. Right? A potential last day might have been December 2nd, based on the emails that council got last week. I will make another motion in the interest of fairness. If Eric really didn't understand that we gave each other 2 days last Monday, if he really didn't understand that, okay, I'm not sure why, but I will say that I would give people, I'll make another motion that would supersede my last one, that would say people have until close of business tomorrow, December 2nd, the arbitrary day that Clint put in an email.
How generous.
That I never agreed to, and the council never agreed to, but I will, in the interest of quote unquote keeping the peace, make it December 2nd at 5 o'clock, and then we're done with that. But we never talked about anything else, and that's just how anyone could have gotten that impression in that executive session is beyond me. So I would make a motion that would say tomorrow at 5 o'clock is when people have to complete and anybody who was in the executive session would have actually thought it was November 26th was the last day. That's what we left in executive session. That would have been a reasonable assumption. But if it makes people happier to be able to say they got one last day to do it, to change whatever they need to change before the public sees it, okay, I would say that we can do it as of tomorrow at 5 o'clock. That would be final time.
So
if anyone would like to second that motion, that's fine.
I would second that, but I would, with the proviso that I don't know where Councilor Benham is, and if he would be able to get that, get this update. Maybe someone here does know and can let us know.
Councilor Benham at the time said that he was totally fine with his and was willing to move forward. That's what he said in the executive session. He never said he had any plans to change anything, and there was at least 3 others at that executive session that said the same.
But I think...
He did make comments that he wanted to change a
Yeah,
few things, but he was good with
yeah.
everything that stood, but he thought if everybody else was doing it, he was going to change some stuff. Eric, and then Indra?
Okay, Okay, so Karen sent out an email on the 26th. That is correct. That's when I was going to turn in some of the changes, or all of the changes that I had. Okay, so the 26th of November, which was a Wednesday, I held off on that because things were going in a different direction. And I'm glad to hear that, Rob is so benevolent in allowing that to happen, to change these things. But the bottom line is that these things have to be put in and have to be fair. I mean, for Aaron, for everyone, for the council. So we went a different direction. I asked the question, can I turn in these things tonight on the 26th, or should I hold off? We're going to hold off. I have the changes, and I'm not sure if all the other counselors have their changes. So the problem is, it's not going to be fair for the other counselors. So that's where I stand.
I had Indra.
Rob's very benevolent because I wouldn't change my motion. I don't get, this is the problem with talking to people behind the scenes, one at a time, because I don't get how Eric thought things were going to change when I had no idea things were going to change. And evidently some other counselors didn't. Who did you hear from that things were going to change? By who?
The council president and the mayor.
Said things are going to change and we are going to do something different?
I'm not going to get interrogated up here, but what I'm saying is things changed and it was put up on an email. Procedure was changed that way, so that's what it was. That's what happened.
I would like to, the procedure did not change because I didn't hear back. I'll wait.
Okay, so Rob has, Rob, to clarify, did you not want to make an amendment to your motion or make a second motion?
Can I make,
I'm sorry
I'd like
for-
to finish my point if I could.
Oh,
I'm not
I
off
apologize,
topic.
Indra. Everybody stopped
Oh.
talking, so go ahead.
Well, you guys were talking, so I didn't get the memo that things had changed. So this is a real communication issue, and this is what I mean by we have horrible communication. Because if things really changed, why wasn't I told that things changed? In my email that I got from you, which was exactly what Rob talked about, it was that if 3 counselors didn't object, you would move forward. I was one that objected. I never heard anything back. I never heard, yes, I got 3, we're going to do something different, or not, nothing. So I don't know.
If I could just
why-
speak real quickly to that, because this might answer your question. I think if the other counselors who are gone today were here, this vote would have gone differently. So and the reason why I say that, I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, is because...
Well, you interrupted me.
I apologize, but I thought I was trying to answer what you were saying in that why hadn't you heard back? And that is because a majority of counselors were going to go the different direction. That's what it appeared like, but we had until tomorrow to decide that. So I wasn't trying to dismiss anything you were saying, but hopefully that explains.
Well, now I've lost my train of thought, but I don't know how a majority of counselors thought we were going into a different direction. If I didn't get that information, am I not important enough to get that information? Like, I don't get it. Let's just move on.
If I can, may I?
No.
No,
I'm-
never mind. Okay,
I'm done with
I won't then. It's all right.
I'm done with this.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm gonna
I
go
will say
for-
this one thing. I think that we heard from a majority of counselors, but I wouldn't have spoken for everybody because there was still a day. So I hope that explains it to you. That's what I was trying to do. So I wasn't trying to interrupt.
Thank you. But I don't think you can speak for counselors that aren't here either. So I would like to say that.
Okay, so I'm not going to argue this, but I do have to clarify. I'm looking at the emails right now. You received the email, Andrea. You actually responded to the email because I responded to you. And then you responded again saying thank you because I basically told you to consult with the council president. So you were in that email chain and you received it and you responded to it.
I admitted that I got the email and that I responded to
But
you.
you said you didn't know what was going on. I'm
I
not trying to
didn't.
argue, but you're
I
responding
didn't.
back and forth with me in regards to that email.
Did you say that we were moving forward with a consultant?
Yes, I said in my email response to you, because you reiterated some other things that Rob had said, and I explained my position in authoring the email and said that the email was co-authored and was by the facilitator, which was the council president, and you needed to address the council president with any grievances or anything else, and then you responded, thank you very much.
I had no grievances with
So
the council president.
You just stood up here and said that you were not informed and but now you're admitting that you proceeded forward with the email chain, so.
I didn't say I wasn't informed. I
You
said
did!
I
Do we have to roll the tape back?
I
You
said
totally
I
did.
got your email that said if you got
Okay,
a
so at
no
this
from
moment in
3
time.
council presidents, or 3
Okay,
counselors.
I apologize if I'm accusing you of anything, but at this time, I think we're beating up the dead horse. Rob, question back to you. Are you making a second emotion, or are you amending your first emotion? Emotion.
Well, my first motion was already voted on and approved. I'll make a second motion that says, because apparently some people feel better, 5 o'clock tomorrow would let them change whatever they want to change. I'll make a second motion that as of 5 o'clock tomorrow, our evaluations are final.
Second? Joel, it's been motioned and second to give a deadline for 5 o'clock tomorrow in regards to any changes to evaluation notes and/or scoring. Any further discussion? Rick?
Yes?
Rob, sorry.
Yeah, yes?
Eric?
No.
Indra?
Yes,
Joel?
Yes,
Victoria?
Well, I'm sort of a yes on this, but I'm going to vote no because I still didn't get an answer as to whether or not Seth or Kathleen would be able to evaluate. So I'm a no.
Okay, 4 yeses and 2 nos, so the motion passes to give a timeline or a deadline of tomorrow at 5 PM to enter any changes for evaluation scoring and/or comments. And I would look to, Aaron, can you send out a message to counselors, or at least the 2 counselors missing?
We'll send one out to all mayor council based on the direction today.
Okay. Is there any agenda items that anybody wants to bring up?
I would like to have the support of, hopefully, 2 other counselors. As we talked about economic growth and small businesses really struggling, and I know a lot of that is because residents are struggling financially and not spending as much money, and we've had a lot of closures, everyone knows all this. I would like to have a small business task force. I asked for this months and months ago, and nothing moved forward. And I think something was supposed to be on the back of the agenda. It's my fault. I haven't followed through with it. So I really want to put this on the agenda. I will follow through with specifics, but basically the task force would include small business owners, a council member as a liaison or part of it, perhaps a staff person, whatever you guys think would be fine, but to really look at the problems small businesses are facing in our city and how, and not necessarily financial, how can the city help our small businesses and retain businesses? I would like to see a task force with small business owners in it.
Okay, thank you very much. I was not ignoring you, I was writing everything you said, and I actually think that's great. And we have support from Rob as well as Joel, and I'm sure, and Rick, so it's on the agenda right this second.
So what we can do moving forward is I can get with Indra, I think we have a meeting later on this week. We could talk about that and what the spirit of that is. Then staff can draft something for your consideration at a future business meeting that would create a task force. And based on what I'm hearing from council and what you'd like to see as an outcome ultimately with the task force.
Yeah, and I believe I have the concept of that too. I would like a little bit more. I think that what we'd have to do is maybe brainstorm kind of like as a little bit more defined task on what they would do, but I think this is a great premise. Anything else from any other counselors? Does anybody have any questions or comments in regards to the agenda going forward? Okay. Seeing none, then agenda review is over, and this workshop we've gone through the agenda of the workshop, so I would proceed to say we're done. Thank you.